Welcome to Handy at the Shandy, a Las Vegas podcast. This is episode 13, hour 2. Now, previous episode, not hour 1, but episode 12, we put out the call and boy, did you all answer. So we're going to start with some listener feedback and questions, and then we're going to get on to James's Zorkfest trip report. Just for, for some continuity and making sure that we're straight here. We are recording about a week early, so there's some delay, and you're thinking, oh, this doesn't seem right. That's why. So anyway, first comment/question comes from James from Florida. He says, love the show. Nice job. Always lead with that. We appreciate that, James. Says he's got his annual trip coming up with a buddy, and we've been thinking about mid/North Strip high limit room bar top VP crawl. What would the recommended locations or route be for something like this? Some of the names that seem to keep coming up on the show seem to be Palazzo, Resorts World, Fontainebleau, and Wynn. Any advice the boys can provide on this endeavor would be much appreciated. Thanks in advance.
I love that we're called the boys.
Yeah, I like that too.
Nice.
And me misreading that, it was perfectly grammatically correct. That was me stumbling, not James. So what do we think for a mid/North Strip high limit room bar top VP crawl? It seems like he hit all the sweet spots there.
Yeah, other than that, Wynn doesn't have a lot to offer. I think absolutely the high limit room at Resorts World and the high limit room at Palazzo, I obviously cannot speak more highly than I do about those, because those are the cream of the crop for me, whether it's the staff or the drinks or the impressive limits on what you can get comped. That's where I'd want to play. Never mind the pay tables at the video poker bar. That's not what I go there for. I think mixing in Fontainebleau can be good. That new solo lounge is kind of technically a high limit room. You'll have to check on their hours because it's not always open, but that seems to be a good one to look into the mix. And I looked at the bar top video poker there, and it's as good or better than both Palazzo and Resorts World.
I will say at Wynn, right, their high limit room doesn't have a bar, but they do have some really good video poker machines in there, and the wait staff's coming around all the time.
I was going to say, yeah, it might as well be a bar at the Wynn.
Right, yeah. So that's a really nice area. If you want to play bar top at Wynn, though, the only place you can go is Charlie's and get drinks, right? At B Bar, they're not comping. So I've played at B Bar one time, and that was just because I had free play to get through, and I was waiting for my room, and I didn't want to drink, so I was okay with it.
Yeah, I would put another hat in the ring for Fontainebleau as well, only because this year specifically they've been pretty aggressive with offers, and so even on some moderate play, you'll probably get a decent offer. I brought up my May trip before, which was I gambled maybe just a couple hours and was getting free rooms throughout F1. So it's something to consider as well if you're thinking of a return visit or just curious and you maybe want to check it out in the future.
Thanks, James, and also great name.
From a good name to a good city, we've got Nick from Chicago. I'm crushing the transitions today, by the way, boys.
Yeah.
So Nick from Chicago says, first, what are the room types at a property or specific features and amenities that you guys seek out or value when you're willing to spend a little more than usual or looking to upgrade a room at check-in? I can start. I would say for me, it just comes down to space and having a separate living and sleeping area, because I like to wind down at the end of the night. I don't like to eat snacks in the bed. I don't like an oddly positioned TV. Basically, what I'm talking about is a suite. Basically, that's technically what a suite is: a living space and a sleeping space. But that's what I'm looking for. And I kind of like when I upgrade to first class, I have like an hourly rate that I'm willing to pay based on the length of the flight. I used to have one for like dollar per square foot. I forgot what it was. It was just some obscure random number that I came up with to make myself feel better. But that's what I'm looking for. What about you guys?
I'm usually just looking to get for the top level that I can get comped. I've never paid extra for a room recently in Vegas because, I don't know if you know this, but I'm probably down on the floor gambling. So
I thought this was a great question because it made me really think about what do I value when I'm trying to book a room, and why when I say, oh, I like staying at the nicer places, it's like, why? Like, why do you like staying at the nicer places? Like, do you use the nicer things in the room, or do you just go to bed and then wake up and leave? And so I think in general, I'm with James that I kind of go for what I can get comped, and I would prefer to get a base room at a nicer property than to try to get a higher end room at a property that I don't like as much.
Mm-hmm.
But things that I'm willing to spend a little more than usual is usually just access to the room. Like they say, your room type isn't available. I say, if I pay for an upgrade, can you get me in a room right now? And the answer is usually yes, because there's
Mm-hmm.
something open. They can get a bit of a commission for selling me on the upcharge, and I can get into a room because it's a slightly different room type than the one I booked. So that's the main reason I would pay for an upgrade at check-in, is just to get into the room. I think in general, Vegas rooms are pretty fungible. There's places where I haven't had as good of a night of sleep, and I've thought, maybe I won't book that hotel again. But room to room, it does not a lot moves the needle for me.
Yeah, I mean, and it's partially why I've taken more to Palazzo Venetian too, because based on my play, I can get, their base room there is as good as the nicest room at some other properties, and to me, it has that dedicated sleeping and living space, right? That little stepped out, I
Some
absolutely
people,
love.
I was going to say, some people don't like the little sunken living room sort
Oh,
of
I
stepped out.
love
That
it.
I adore it. Yeah.
I think it's fantastic, and they have rooms that are not like that. They actually have rooms that the bed is closer to the window, and actually, it's like floor to ceiling window. It's really nice as well. And they don't have that step down. You just got to kind of search for it a bit, which I think is maybe a good transition to his second question, which he asked: is there a resource available that lists the different Vegas room types and their amenities that you guys are aware of? What's listed on the resort sites today is copy pasted descriptions across all products and doesn't
Mm-hmm.
shed much light on the features, which is it's maddening. Specifically for an upcoming stay, I have nights booked at Aria and Bellagio, and I was looking for rooms with a steam shower to try the $20 trick or pay out of pocket to upgrade into. Back in 2020, I stayed in a Fountain View Bellagio one bedroom suite for $300 a night. That's a good room. And my wife and I still talk about that steam shower more than anything else from that trip. I was going to suggest that room before I got to that part of the question there. So, any resources that you all are aware of? I've got a couple that I'm thinking of, but you guys can go first if you want.
I don't. And this was actually a question from early on when we started doing this podcast that I think I said I would love to have. Like, I don't know a lot about the different rooms and everything in Vegas. I know that, Adam, you have a lot more knowledge there. And I was like, man, it would be great to have some sort of database that I can quickly just go and look, especially at places like Vidara. I feel like you guys talk about Vidara as like, oh, there's this room and there's this room and there's this room and there's this room. And I'm still of the mindset of, oh, the hotels have this base room and then an upgrade. Like, that's it, which is definitely not true. So I would love to learn more about that.
All I'm going to say, and I hope this is a superset of what Adam is going to say, is I would just use Google or YouTube, where if there's a room type I'm curious about, just search for it and find someone giving you like a walkthrough of it and see what the amenities are, because I don't have a good answer for this otherwise.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best supplement you can find. One thing that I do just to get an idea of what types of rooms are available, especially if you're booking on offers, is
Mm,
don't go into your offers, but go into incognito mode, type in the dates you want, say, no, I'm just continue as a guest or whatever that option is. And it's going to show you the list of all the available rooms that you can pay for that day. Specifically for MGM, I'm not confident how it works with others, but for MGM, they're showing you basically your marketing offers, what they'll give you, either comped or discounted. But there are things like suites and the like that are not going to be shown to you because they're just not going to show it at that rate for whatever reason. However, if you know the room that you want to get in, they can still probably give you kind of a player rate based on your play, like a discounted rate. So you wouldn't pay the full rack rate, if you will. I did that with the wraparound Fountain View room for Cosmo. It wasn't showing up in my offers, but I knew that room was available during my stay because I went in incognito mode. And so I checked it out. When I talked about the Cypress Suite, I think in hour one, I know for the March trip that room is available. It's just not showing up in my offers, so I can go there. So I do that if you just want to get a quick look at what type of rooms are available at that particular property. And I always say this before you do the $20 trick, depending on where you're staying, just see what's available because sometimes there will be rooms that are technically an upgrade that you can get for less than $20 a
mhm.
night. And it might just be worth doing that because if the $20 trick fails or they want to charge you a particular upgrade the day of, you might be able to get it cheaper ahead of time. But beyond that, there's a website that I've used. This is not a plug. I'm not getting
What
paid by
aren't we
them.
plugging?
We are not
Yeah.
plugging a site called Sweetness, a room suite, NESS. And you do have to sign an account for them. I don't recall ever getting any spam messages or anything from them, but you can plug in dates that you want. It'll show you, I mean, they're showing you the rack rate, so it's not discounted or anything like that. That's actually how I found that weird Rio anomaly that I talked about in hour one. But that'll show you a list of all the suites that are available in Las Vegas for that particular night. They have other cities too, like New York, Chicago, LA, and stuff. But they actually give a really good rundown of the amenities that are available if that suite is available at that time. Oddly, I've seen MGM suites being taken off that site, at least when I checked recently, but like Palazzo, the Caesars properties, Wynn, Waldorf, they're all on there. And sometimes they have like 3D scans of the room or whatever, like that, you see like realtors use on like Zillow or whatever. That has a good rundown just of there, because like sometimes you get like a 2,000 square foot suite and Caesar's got like 2 pictures. I'm like, it's a towel and a pillow. I'm like, this is giving me no information whatsoever. So yeah, Sweetness is another one that I use just to kind of poke around and see what's out there when I'm scoping out what my next aspirational room is going to be. That's Talking Sweets. He also said, P.S. Will video poker bars comp a handshake? Asking for reasons.
And in my head, a handshake is actually just like Fernet or Fernet plus a beer. But given that he's from Chicago, I'm guessing he means like Malort or Malort and a beer. And I don't know if I've ever seen it in Vegas. Malort is getting a much more nationwide appeal and nationwide presence, but I'm not sure I've seen it behind a bar in Vegas yet, so I can't tell you much there.
When I originally read it, I thought it was milkshake, and I was thinking, yes, at Charlie's Bar at Wynn, they will comp a milkshake, I believe, for video poker play.
Yeah,
So,
this is slightly different, I think.
yeah, I think asking for reasons, no one's ever bashful about asking for a milkshake. So, yes. Next up, we've got Jessica at the Shandy. She says, Jack, I remember Jessica. She said, Jack, we love your vocabulary. Never stop elevating the discourse, with an exclamation point. Jessica, that is not what you told me at the time. I was not drunk because I don't drink anymore. But anyway, Jack, did you receive this email and put it up here? So I feel like you.
Yeah, and I mean, I
mistyped.
edited it down a little bit, but I kept the very important parts in, such as this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you anyway, Jessica.
Wait, you're editing these down? So there are people writing in talking about how awesome Adam and I are, and
Yeah.
you're not including them?
No.
Well, let's get to Jessica's questions. She says, we've learned from Jack. Okay. We've learned from Jack
Oh God.
to always keep our small pairs.
Yeah, he'd be the one to talk about small pairs. Anyway,
Yeah.
keep going.
But this one is something we go back and forth on. Throwing out the math, or maybe using a bit of math, what's everyone's personal preference? Keeping 4 to a flush or 4 to an open-ended straight, like the example below. So her example is 10 of hearts, 9 of hearts, 7 of hearts, 3 of hearts, 8 of clubs.
So you have 10, 9, 8, 7, and you also have 4 hearts.
Right.
And which do you choose between those two? And I don't think we're going to throw out the math here. I think if you're going to throw out the math, you can refer back to the document I posted in the show notes. Maybe I'll post in the show notes again for this episode.
Refer to the notes in the notes.
The notes in the notes had my little one-page doc on my super easy beginner video poker strategy. And I think the thing to take away from that is that better than the small pairs is your big draws, like 4 to a flush or 3 to a royal. And then at or worse than the small pairs is other draws like 4 to a straight or 3 to a straight flush and that kind of thing. And so 4 to a straight does come in pretty significantly below a 4 to a flush. And there's a pretty good reason as to why. Because ideally what you're looking at for one of these draws is, what does it pay if you hit it? And how easy is it to hit it? The good news is both rule in favor of the flush.
Right.
There's 13 cards of each suit in a deck. So if you already have 4 of them, there's 9 left that can make your flush. So you have 9 ways to win. And a flush generally pays 25 or 30 credits. Let's call it 25. Whereas a straight only pays 20 credits. And if you're holding 10, 9, 8, 7, then there's 4 jacks left in the deck on the top end and 4 6s on the bottom end. And so you only have 8 ways to hit it instead of 9. And when you do hit it, it doesn't pay as much. So you kind of just have to go for the 4 to a flush there. And it's not particularly close.
Does it get closer if it's something like, Jack, Queen, 10, 9, and like 4, where you've got 2 paying cards for jacks or better that are...
Not really, because if you're competing between straights and flushes, those high cards are probably also in the flush that you're looking for, because you only get dealt 5 cards. So 4 make a straight and 4 make a flush. The only difference between those two holds can be at most 1 card. Right. And so, no, that is a good point, that high cards being in the hand give you additional ways to turn the hand into a winner or a money back. It's not just those exact 9 hearts or what have you, but it doesn't change the math at all for this sort of thing.
Plus, I think flushes are prettier.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Like definitely sexy.
Even if I was throwing out the math completely, I would still go with the flush because I like the prettiness of it.
See, I throw out the 3 of hearts and go for the straight flush with the 7, 9, 10 of hearts there. But I'm a wild card. We all know that about me.
No wonder you haven't had any hand pays.
I really throw out the math. She also asked, we've noticed many machines are missing bonus poker. Do you know why that is? And if bonus poker isn't available when playing Ultimate X, do you prefer jacks or better, double bonus poker, or a different variant? James, what are you going for there?
Well, the reason why a lot of stuff is missing for bonus poker, I think we've talked about this a couple of times, is there's only a certain level that the return to player is going to go down, right? You can't go lower than 6-5. And especially Ultimate X, I actually have it here because I was going to talk about it a couple of weeks ago, is with bonus poker 6-5, it's 98.124. Like that's really good.
At Ultimate X,
at Ultimate X, at Ultimate X.
Wait, is this Jack talking? Where's this coming from?
Well, I'm trying to, elevate the discourse, if you will. So I think there's just properties that are like, well, we don't want to offer a 98% game, so they're getting rid of it. If that is the case, I'll fluctuate between double bonus and then back to jacks or better. If I like, I don't want to really experience that variance, I'll go down to jacks or better so I can get the 2 on the 2 pair. Jack, what about you?
Oh, I mean, I always just play double bonus.
You never play bonus poker, so it doesn't matter.
I really should learn some bonus poker because, like you said, the household is significantly lower than on the game I normally play. But given how committed I am to kind of learning the exact strategy for this particular Ultimate X game, and Ultimate X strategies can be very complex, it's not really going to behoove me to learn a game that I can't even play at, for example, the Palazzo high limit bar.
Right.
So I'm pretty happy with my double bonus, even if I'm kind of taking the worst of it in some cases. One variant I really like, I mean, you correctly nailed the 2 games that are kind of on either side of bonus poker. Like you can kind of go lower variance to jacks or better, or up 1 tick to double bonus. But another one that's kind of in the same vein is bonus poker deluxe, where there's no additional categories of hands. Like there's nothing special about 2s, 3s, and 4s or aces or anything like that. The pay table, looking at the left-hand side of it, reads exactly like a jacks or better pay table, but looking at the right-hand side where the actual numbers are, you see that the main difference is that all 4 of a kinds pay extra, and you lose it on the 2 pair, just like many other games. And that one's kind of a fun one. I like the fact that at quarters, every 4 of a kind you can get is $100. I think that's just a really clean variant of poker.
I like that variant. I was doing this road trip, and this was about a year ago now. And my goal was every time I see like a casino, or I knew the casinos were on the way, I just wanted to play at a new property. And all I did was put $100 in a $1 bonus deluxe. I was like, I'm gonna play this $100 through. It's probably not gonna last, but if I hit that 4 of a kind early, then I got all the way to $400. So I like the 400x on any 4 of a kind.
Yeah, I should go to jacks or better if bonus poker isn't available, because that is my game, because it's an easier strategy and I know the strategy. But I would go to double bonus poker instead because I'm addicted to getting more on 4 of a kind, and I can't. It's just that opportunity cost in my head, which is stupid. It doesn't make sense, logically speaking. But
I mean, yeah, jacks are better if every quad is $31.25, and then maybe multiplied by some sort of number. But it really takes a lot of the luster out of hitting that 4 of a kind.
Well, and ever since these 4 of a kind trackers came into existence, and I saw that on that final day I had 20 plus 4 of a kinds, and I would just be thinking to myself, like, what could this day have been? A loser still is the answer, but what could it have been? Jack, you want to take? Thank you, Jessica, for stopping by, one in Las Vegas and saying hi, but also paying your respects to Jack in print form as well. Jack, you want to take this final question here, or this final topic?
Yeah, and this was one that's just kind of more of a vanity topic for me, a fun video poker quirk I wanted to talk about. But there's been a picture of a video poker jackpot making the rounds. And by the time you're hearing this, you're going to be like, what? That was like 2 weeks ago. I don't remember what happened then. But it's a picture of someone betting $105 a spin. So no small amount of money
As
because
you
they're
do.
playing $5 denom and they're playing 3 lines of double super times pay. And so it's a game where you have to pay 2 extra credits on every line. So instead of betting 5 credits a line and betting $75, you're paying 10 extra dollars on each line at this $5 denom they were playing to bring it up to $105. And that's kind of where it comes. And you're like, okay, they're betting $105. How much did they win? They won $1.2 million in this photo for a Delt Royal on a 20 times multiplier.
Now, Jack, how do you get 20 times multiplier? That
seems kind of crazy, yeah.
It seems kind of crazy. Is there maybe a quirk in this game that you'd like to talk about, Jack?
There's a weird quirk in this game that I'd like to talk about, James. And the way double super times pay works is both when you hit deal and get your 5 brand new cards, and when you hit draw to get replacement cards for whatever you threw away, at both opportunities, you have like a 1 in 15 chance to hit some sort of multiplier. And that multiplier is probably like a 3x or a 4x, but maybe it could be as high as 10x in some rare cases, right? And so they got the 10x multiplier on both. And it's because there's this weird quirk of double super times pay, where in any case that you get a Delt Royal, so not a lot of cases, but it does happen, in any case in which you get a Delt Royal flush, and you get awarded that first multiplier, that first 1 in 15 shot, it automatically gives you both multipliers, even though you only earned the first one, and it automatically gives you them both at 10x. And that's again, much like I talked about that weird dream card stuff, this is in the actual rules of the game. If you just click game, like see pays help game rules, whatever button is on the machine, it'll tell you as much. Like this is exactly written there. But I learned today why this sort of quirk exists.
And Jack, why does this sort of quirk exist?
And why don't you have a job?
So I thought the fun thing about this is I think it's for laws like they have in New Jersey. In New Jersey, they don't allow a slot machine to have a top payout that happens less than 1 in 100 million times. They're like, it has to be at least 1 in 100 million chances, or you can't have a slot machine that offers something that's rarer than that. And I mean, that seems like common sense. If you were a lawmaker and you saw that, you'd probably sign off on it. You're like, 1 in 100 million is still never. Why would you need to be rarer than that? Well, and so for this game, to even get the Delt Royal with 2 multipliers, never mind that they have to both be 10 times, but to get a Delt Royal with 2 multipliers at double super times pay is already 146 million to 1.
Oh my God.
And so if you add on the fact that 10x doesn't come up very often, like even if we're being generous and say you get that like 1 in every 10 times you get a multiplier, it becomes a 10 times multiplier, then it's still like 14 billion to 1 against. And that's with like a generous estimate. So you can see why to get around certain regulations, they have to make this top payout of the Delt Royal on the 20 times a little more achievable than 1 in 14 billion. So yeah, like I said, they make it a little easier to get by adding this weird quirk. It's about 1 in 10 million shot to get dealt this hand every time you push the button. So
amazing.
Falls within the bounds of law in certain jurisdictions, certainly.
So, I mean, because it's still going to happen 1 in whatever you said, 10 million, I'm sure that's still not really affecting the overall, payback to player, right? Like it's not going to have a big change in your 98.124 type thing.
Yeah, because double super times pay and super times pay, they both already on average add a little bit to the return for the player. But you will notice when you look at those 2 percentages, you would kind of expect them to be exactly the same, and they're not. The double super times pay does add just a little more.
Just a little more.
The first, that 7th credit you're playing per line actually does add a little more than the 6th credit because of this oddity. So yeah, fun stuff on the double super times pay. And I have a soft spot for super times pay in general. That's the game that really got me into these gimmicky video pokers where I ultimately settled on my Ultimate X.
I like it. I might want to play it a little more. It seems to not drain my money as much as Ultimate X. Let's be real.
Especially if you stick to just single super times pay and play 6 credits a line. That I feel like is a really good balance sometimes.
Yep.
Well, hopefully that person is back to even
Yeah.
And I'm confident that James is going to tell us that he was better than even on his Zorkfest trip. James, you want to give us the rundown of your most recent? I think it was a quick stay.
Yeah, it was a pretty quick stay. I head out. Ugh. Yeah, it was a pretty quick stay. I left for Vegas on December 4th. So by the time you're hearing this, almost a month has passed. It was a Thursday afternoon at out of state college here in central Pennsylvania.
I know a guy who was born there.
Yeah, I know a guy too that was
I
born
think
there.
you're getting into like a story. It was a brisk day.
It was a brisk day.
In state
It was a
college.
brisk day.
It sounds like an opening to like a Dateline thing.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I always have to lay over. And the only reason why I'm having this conversation right now is because I wanted to say, God, I wish these layovers had a video poker bar. I wish airports had a video poker bar, which would be amazing to.
That's the cruel reality of the Vegas airport, is that they have gambling, but you're already in Vegas, so you don't need it. It's the one place that you don't need to have gambling.
Yeah. I brought my handy at the Shandy syringes, gave them out at Zorkfest, but I did not use them on the flight. I was good. I was doing work getting out there. Landed at about 9:30. I had to go to M Resort. So Zorkfest, right? Points and miles and casino loyalty conference put on by Travel Zork. It was out at M Resort, which was pretty. It's out there. It's out there in Henderson. It was about $35 for Uber, $40 for Lyft. I did not check the taxi, but I've heard the cabs from the Strip weren't the cheapest. However, there's an AP move because when I pulled up Uber, it said if you pay with PayPal, no, I did not. If you pay with PayPal, you get 20% off. Oh. And so I used PayPal and got my 20% off. And I have no idea why. It just was up there. And I was like, sure, I'll connect my PayPal. So they probably have all my information now from PayPal, which is whatever.
That was a scammer. That was a phishing scam.
You know, they just opened 2 days prior a new tower at M Resort. And so I checked in, it was 10 p.m. by the time I got there, and I asked about the upgrade. I was like, hey, I'd love to be in the new tower. And the guy took my ID and he's like, hold on, let me see what I can do. And he leaves and he goes, whatever, into an office.
This guy's also a scammer.
Yeah, probably. I think so. He's gone for a solid 5 to 10 minutes. So much so that the woman who was at the computer next to him looks over and he's like, where did he go?
Yeah, what are they doing back there?
Right. And I was like, oh, I told her, she's like, oh, do you want a bottle of water or something? I'm like, sure. I was like, I'm going to take some water.
In the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
Wash down that identity theft.
Mm-hmm. And so he comes back. He's like, hey, I'm so sorry. We're sold out for tonight. But if you come back tomorrow, we can put you there. And I was like, no, I don't want to pack up and change. It's not that big of a room. If I was at Cosmo and I was like, I'd love to get into a wraparound, and they're like, well, we can't do it tonight, but come back tomorrow and we can. I probably would, but not for just the newer tower. The room at M Resort was perfectly fine. It was definitely not as nice as a Wynn room or a Cosmo room even, but I would say it was on par with the Vidar rooms that I've stayed in lately.
Nice.
It was a perfectly fine room. The one thing I didn't like about it, and this is with a lot of rooms, it didn't have where you can kind of press a button near the bed and it would open and close the blinds or the shades.
You had to get up?
I had to get up. I just really in the morning, I like if I could just reach over, press a button, and the shade and the blinds open. So I had a strip view, but of course it's 17 miles
binoculars.
Yes.
The little coin operated one where you put the quarter in and then
top of the Empire State Building or something.
That's what they should do. But I did decide to get some late night gambling in because I was following You Can Bet on That on Twitter, and they had said that they were still there. And I get down there, and yep, Mark and Dr. Mike, they're playing craps. I went up, I'm like, I'm going to join, but first I got to do a lap, figure out where all the video poker bars are, which we'll get to. Multiple video poker bars with some really good pay tables. And so I walked around, looked for that, came back. There was a shooter that was doing pretty well on the table. He finally 7'd out, so I jumped in. It wasn't great. I lost $400, but I was there for 90 minutes and I was standing next to Mark Duvall and we had a good chat. Funny thing, which he mentioned on the most recent episode of You Can Bet on That, was all of the TVs in that pit were at MLB TV. They were legitimately on MLB TV. And so but it's December, put on ESPN or something.
Was this a $25 table?
No, this was $15. This is a $15 table. It was pretty good. After they went to bed around midnight, I decided I'd check out a couple of video poker bars, lost a few $100 at each of them, and called it a night. So first night
donation.
was good. Thank you for the donation. And this M Resort is Penn Play, which is the local one that I go to a lot, which is Hollywood at Penn National Casino, which I'll actually be going to tomorrow, mainly because I have a ton of, I have so much money from this trip to M Resort that now it's like Kim and I can go every week for a free steak dinner if we want. So I woke up on Friday. I had to do some work. So I had student meetings in the morning. Finals week is happening right now as we're recording. And so this was just a couple weeks ago. I had to do a lot of tutoring for students. I also was meeting with an education company out there about possible collaborations on some things. So it was a legitimate work trip, people, before you shout at me in the comments.
How is the desk in the room? Because there's some of them were like, why is this
Oh.
glass? Like, we don't need a glass. Like, the mouse doesn't even work. Like, it's not a proper workstation.
So it's not what I like. I like having a separate desk and working station. It's kind of one of those, you know what I'm talking about. There's the TV,
Yeah.
and then like under the
it's like a
TV,
console.
there's like a
Yeah,
console.
Oh,
You
no.
know, so not the greatest, but you know, it was enough room to
Should have been in the new tower.
Yeah, we're such
Should have
snobs.
been in the new tower. Yeah. So I didn't do any gaming that morning. I went to a couple of meetings, and then I was like, I'm at a Points and Miles conference, which I don't do any of that stuff, but I'm like, I better at least go get comps at other places to just say that I was doing the hustle, because who doesn't like your vacation to be work, right, Adam?
Yeah.
And this was the same time that MGM was doing their holiday points, and I saw that I had about 200, I think it was 205, I had $205 available for holiday points, and you don't need to stay there for free play. So I decided I would go to Cosmo, and my plan was go to Cosmo and then go to Resorts World to grab some free play. So I went to Cosmo, and I'm like, okay, let me get this $200 in free play. I'm like, while I'm there, I may as well take out a marker and just go play.
Wait, do you have to
So
go to the
if I look
rewards desk for these holiday points?
No, you could just do it right from the app. As long as you were logged into Wi-Fi, you could just collect it. So I just
On the
collected
MGM
it
Rewards app?
on the MGM Rewards.
Oh, interesting.
And so I'm like, oh, cool. So I went and I took out a marker. I went to play video poker, and it said, you have $600 in free play. And I don't know what it was. I think it was because maybe from the credit card, you know, perhaps I finally hit that $3,000 spend on the new credit card. So it put it just as like resort points, which you can move into free play or whatever. Either way, I was like, oh,
It's got to be something like that. I peaked Adam's balance when I was at a machine next to him on the last
pocket
trip.
watching.
And he had like, I don't know, some exorbitant amount. Yeah,
Right.
it was a 4 figures worth of like MGM credit. And I was like, what in the world am I
With the
looking
MGM
at?
credit card, they deposit your like whatever X multiplier you get. I'm using multiplier terms for credit card spend.
Yeah.
Whatever, like you get 2X grocery, dining, whatever.
Gotcha.
Those points, they deposit it as like slot dollars,
Mhm.
but you can change those slot dollars into resort credit
Right.
if you want, or reward credits.
Yeah, that's what I figured it was too. But I'm like, well, I'm here. I may as well use this. And so because of that, like I ended up winning $800 or something from that. And I was going to go and pay off the marker, which I was like, well, I need the cash and they're going to take this anyway. And it's a small amount that I'm taking out. I'm not going to worry about taking that with me. So, but don't do it. Not good advice, but you know.
The only reason I would not walk a marker like that, even if it was only for like $1,000 or $2,000, is they seem to sweat this shit so hard. Like they seem to hate it, at least from a policy level. Like the employees, I'm sure they personally don't care, but like they really ride your ass if you seem like you might be leaving with money that you might owe them.
Well, I mean, we'll see what happens, right? We'll see what happens. But like at the end of the day, if they're pissed off at me, I'm just gonna say, okay, well, I'm gonna go over Venetian Palazzo and play. Then I'm sorry. Like I gave you some play when I wasn't going to on this trip. So
he's already been scammed by PayPal. He's got to
correct.
Win
I gotta
something. Scam somebody else.
At that point, I was like, oh crap, I've got to get back to M Resort soon for my haircut and shave. So I was going to do the walk to Resorts World. I was like, nah, I'm just going to take a quick Uber down there because I had $110 and $20 in free play. So not even a lot. But I'm like, I may as well stop by and do this. I put the 110 into Dream Card Poker, which was fun that we talked about that a couple weeks ago. And it was just quarters. So I was like, oh, I should get most of this back. No, went on an awful run. I took like $45 out of that machine, out of the 110, which was fine. I used my $20 in food credit and then head back to M Resort. So I did the whole running around trying to get some free play, and it paid off. I mean, I ended up, having about $850 more than when I left. So it was a good cushion for the rest of the evening. On that Uber ride back to M Resort, I want to talk about this a little bit. I was talking with the driver. I was like, "Oh, what do you do? How long have you been here?" Et cetera. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I work in HR at Win." I was like, "Oh, that's super cool."
Hmm.
And it's like, "Cool." And we talked about some things, and there was nothing that he told me that I was like, "Oh man, I can't talk about this," right? Because it's pretty straightforward stuff. But it was all positive about Win, which I think is something we hear a lot of their employees
Mm-hmm.
usually having like positive reactions to. And he said, the reason why everyone has such a good time at Win is that he's on the team that estimates how many personnel is going to be needed for a weekend. You say, okay, we expect this many guests, so you need X number of hosts, you need X number of bartenders, you need X number of security guards, right? He says every time, since he's worked there for 3 years, every time he presents that to the management, they always then overstaff. He said they always have more people on than what is recommended for, whatever industry standards are. So I thought that was kind of interesting of like, clearly they're doing something right. And every time I go to Win, like the service is just spectacular. So that was a kind of
That's
interesting
That's
nugget.
the thing that gets me about Win is they can afford to do that because
Yeah.
their prices are so high.
Right.
And mostly their room prices are so high. Like
Mhm.
their rack rate for a room is
Oh,
the
it's
highest of
ridiculous.
anywhere in Vegas. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's absurd, even for a standard room. But a lot of the other stuff on the property is in some sense not more expensive. Like you can play your slots there for your 80 cents, or you can
Yep.
play your video poker
Mhm.
there for $1.25. And the waitresses will still be coming around, taking the same orders and giving you the same quality drinks that they serve on the floor.
Yeah.
And you can still just walk up to any bar or go to any restaurant there and get that Win level of service, despite not having to pay $680 for a Wednesday night room or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, Win is amazing in the sense that you can just go in and have their overstaffed people looking after you. I don't know. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the difference between a place like Wynn and a middling property or a property that should have that level of service but doesn't, and why it feels different in there. Like he could have been completely blowing smoke, and who
Right.
knows?
Yeah.
But it sounds right based on your experience there, where you don't have to walk more than a few feet to interact with somebody to ask a question, and then they have the confidence to walk you somewhere to guide you. Because they know that there's enough people around, and their
Mhm.
job, whatever it is that they're supposed to be doing at that moment, isn't in jeopardy, if you will.
We stopped, I mean, even just, yeah, small anecdote. We stopped in at like, I don't know, some ungodly early morning hour. Let's say it's like 7:30 in the morning. We stopped in at the new B bar there at Wynn after they had finished all the renovations. And I was like, I just want to pop in and read the cocktail list. And there were like two bartenders working there. And obviously it's 7:30 in the morning. There's like no one at the bar, and they were just both over the top nice about, if you have any questions about the menu, let me know. This is my name, and if you want me to make you a drink, we've got all sorts of fun off menu stuff. Like they're just effusive with everything they do there at Win.
Hmm.
And so yeah, what you're saying really tracks.
Could you imagine if that new B bar comped cocktails? Like that would just
I don't
be
think they have any gaming there. Like
no.
I was going to
They
ask
do.
about
I
that. Are
guarantee
there?
it.
Is it which side? Is it like on the right side of the bar or something?
It's 2 or 3 machines only on the
Okay.
right side of the bar.
Okay, that makes
Yep.
sense as to why I
Yep.
haven't seen it.
100% true. I will back that up unless they've changed since when I was
No.
there.
You're
Whatever,
probably
6
right.
months
I
ago.
just
Yeah.
didn't see it.
Yeah. So that Uber ride was interesting. It was cool to talk to someone about it. I got a haircut and a shave like I usually do when I'm in Vegas. Way better experience than Venetian. It was a cool thing. But I paid for an executive shave and it got comped off at the end. And I always like to say if that happens, but I signed up for an executive shave versus a classic shave. And they made sure to tell me that when I checked in, but I have no clue what the difference was because it
Oh,
seemed
I
like
was
it
going to
was
ask.
just a basic, like it just seemed like a very, what I would get every time I would go get, a shave at
Well, when you're an executive, every shave feels like an
that's
executive
true.
shave.
That's probably what it is. It was a one chair barber shop. It was just a small little area. And so I was like, oh, only one chair in here. And what I learned was Las Vegas law, or maybe it's Nevada law, I don't know. The law requires the barber shop to be fully separate from the salon. Like you can't do a straight shave with the straight razor in the like salon area. It has to be completely separate. Which is, I guess, makes a lot of sense now that every time I've been, the Wynn has their own separate barbershop that only has 2 chairs. They have the barbershop at Cosmo. They had this one, the one at Venetian, which I was just like, that seems like an interesting law that you have to have it separate. But maybe I'm Maybe they're just afraid that the barbers are gonna, go
In
wild with
general,
their.
cosmetology just seems to be very highly regulated compared to
Yes.
other industries. So yeah, I don't know. I buy
Don't
it.
get me started on regulations. No, just kidding. Yeah. So at this point, second day, I haven't even gambled at all. Sorry, at M Resort, right? I've done that little.
You just talked about gambling.
I've done that little. No, I've done that little. Sorry, let me. You know what? Let me. At this point,
leave it in.
Nope, we're leaving it.
At this point, I have not done any gaming at M Resort. So I had to get down. I met up with Josh Duffy from Crap Vegas, Eric Rosenthal, right? Better Life 2.0 fame. Marilyn was there and a couple others playing some VP. This first round of VP actually went really well the next day. That first round went terribly. As Tim Lawson said on Twitter, sometimes Ultimate X just takes your money. Although Tim Lawson said it always takes the money. Yeah. But most times it just drained me. It was okay because I had built that cushion, like I said, from Cosmo earlier. And it was nice to see people. I hadn't seen many people yet. This is the first time I got to see Duffy and Marilyn. And I think Trey stopped by, a bunch of cool people. I know John B was around, lots of cool people. And that night was the Crap Vegas Patreon game. And this was amazing because every meetup, and you've been to more than I have, Jack, it seems like the big gambling meetups just go poorly. I mean, I know last year at Zorkfest last year, the coffee dice, we just got our asses handed to us. This one, it was awesome. It was a 3-hour game. I thought I would have won a lot more money. If I tell you that every single person hit multiple points and like we were going crazy with it and we hit a bunch of left side, right side of the bonus, you'd be like, wow, you must have won $5,000. It was a 3-hour game. No, it was extremely slow because it was a packed table. It was 10 people on each side, basically. It felt like there were so many people there, but it was great because I was next to Mark, John B, Trey, like all Rex, who I'll talk about later, is one of our listeners from Texas who I hung out with a lot. We're all on our side. And Mark hits like 3 points right away. 2 or 3 points right away, hits a couple numbers. So we're up with the first shooter. I'm the second shooter. I hit a point. I hit the small, hit a couple hard ways. And then John B to my left just goes on a massive roll. I think 3 or 4 points. Everything's pressed up to 50 or $100. Things are going great. And every single person made a point until we get to Rex. But he hit 4 10s when I was playing cum bets. So that worked out well for me because I was maxing out my odds because odds were 5 times on anything.
Nice.
It was a $15 table. So when I had $75 up there, hitting a 10 3 times in a row, I was like, oh, I won money on that roll, even though he only threw the bones, as they say, 5 or 6 times. Sure, they sure do say that. So John had a great roll. So I'm going to forgive him for doing his press move, which is so John B's press move. And I kept telling him and he's once the roll gets going, he goes to kind of your more usual. But at the very beginning, he gives them a $25 chip and he's like, I want 12 on 12 extra on 6. I want to press 12 on 6 and 12 on 8, and I need my dollar change. And the table was so packed that they kept forgetting to give him his dollar change. He'd be like, I get a dollar change. If you listen to a couple of the other recaps from Zorkfest, they mentioned this too. We're having a really good roll, and Traeger takes his camera and puts it over his head, and he wants to take a picture of this big crowd at the craps table. And John B is throwing the dice, so you can see the dice going in the air, and the picture's being taken, and the pit boss is like, you can't do that. Just starts yelling, you can't put that camera away. And everyone just gets quiet because even though, I'm not superstitious at all, I'm like, well, it's got to be a 7 because of all that, right? And he hits the point. So it was a great back and forth. So the game was just awesome. But the service with the dealers, it was really slow, but also there was a lot of players there, and so I kind of with that, they didn't seem to be
a table that moves really slowly. If everyone's winning, or if I'm more specifically, if I'm winning, if you just get handed money on occasion and you get to drink your drink and you get to put money in the rack, it almost doesn't matter the speed at which that happens. The problem is when you're stuck and the table's moving really slow, you're just there's not enough time in the world for me to get my money back.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it was good that it was going slow, but the dealers, when we got there, it just seemed like they weren't excited. We're Friday night, we're bringing in a bunch of people, almost everyone's tipping. They just seemed like they didn't care that they were there. They were upset that they had to put in the work for it. So that was a little off-putting. Also, it was $1,000 minimum buy-in and one of the women came up and only had 900. She thought she took $1,000 out, and they were like, "No, sorry, you have to go get more money." I wanted to. It was on the other side of the table. I would have just went over and been like, "Here's $100. Buy into this. Give me the $100 back."
Right.
I was like, "Come on, it's $900. Like it's basically $1,000 buy-in." So either way,
That's
it was a
something
really
that casinos in general that just really bugs me is that they treat their own shitty little rules with the same reverence that they treat like actual gaming regulations and statutes.
right.
Whereas like once something's a rule, they're
Yeah.
like, well, sorry, I couldn't change this even if my life
like,
depended
come
on
on.
it. It's like you could change it right now by just shutting up.
What was
Like-
that, a reserve table?
It was at the reserve table.
So
but
I mean, usually that's like a policy that like you put in place for like, we know someone's going to come in, they're going to be serious, and they're going
Right.
to play. It's like a group policy. It's not like the casino policy.
yeah,
So
no, I
it's
think
like,
I think this was the policy of like, in order for Traeger to get the
Yeah.
reserve table, everyone had to have a buy-in of a minimum of $1,000, but also like it was 900. It's so close. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
and the game's flowing, and it's like,
it's
and
fine.
it's
Yeah.
whatever.
What happened was the dice got around to Duffy on the other side of the table, and I started whispering to people. I'm like, "Hey, we're all going to move to the don't when Duffy throws."
Yes.
So as soon as Duffy gets the ball, we all look at each other. And we all
Gets the
agree.
ball.
The ball, yeah. The ball. Duffy
Feed me
gets the
the rock.
dice. Everyone on our side puts it on the dough. And he looks at it. He starts to laugh and like, we have like a good time. And we're all going to play from the dough, right? But the pit boss goes, "Oh, you can't play the all tall small if you're on the don't. If you want to, you can, but you have to play twice on the pass. So you can't do a do we don't where I could put, $15 on the don't, $15 on the pass.
I'd have
to put $30 on the pass. And I was just like, it's a awful bet. It's a 20% house edge. You're telling me I can't do a 20%
You
house
should be able
edge?
to bet on it without the pass line. Why add a
Right.
barrier to?
Well, that's the part they pointed this out, I think, on You Can Bet on That. It makes sense to have a policy that encourages people to have line action
Sure,
if they're going to be playing the bonus, because the bonus minimums are generally so much lower. At a $15
Right.
table, it might be white chip action, right?
Yeah, I think
you
it
might
was
be able
white
to put
chip.
$3 out there.
Yeah, from a logical perspective, it keeps people from
But
like
if I'm playing the
$15
don't-
coming up. But like just in
I'm playing
terms
the
of just
don't.
for fun, like
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyways, so
It's a reserve table. These are your friends. They're not your enemies. Like, you
Exactly.
don't need to treat the patrons like your adversaries.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we all moved back except for Trey, who wasn't playing the bonus. We all moved back to the pass line. And Duffy 0.7 out. He threw the dice twice. And Trey's picks up his $15 and is like, yeah. And then we all just cashed out. But again, it felt like we won so much money because we were having such a good time. We played for such a long time. And yes, I won $1,000, which is great. Like winning $1,000, $15 table, playing for like it's amazing. But it's one of those like, man, it just felt like it could have been like one of those $5,000 nights at the craps table because you're there for 3 hours. Things are going swell, but it was just going so slow. Yeah. After that, it was already like 11. So we played, Josh and I played a little bit of video poker and then just went to bed because Saturday was the big day of Ultimate X and Podcasters After Dark. On Saturday, I played a ton of video poker and was on the same Tito like the entire day, which is a great feeling.
The best.
I put $800 cash in at the beginning of the day in the morning, and I had it as high as 2,600 at one point without hitting a single hand pay. It's just a bunch of quads with multipliers.
So you were playing double, quarter,
yeah.
Ultimate X?
That's right. I should mention that. I was playing bonus at first in bonus 6-5, quarters, Ultimate X. But I noticed that at the quarter level for double bonus, they had 9-5, which is slightly better on the payback. I have the numbers, Jack, for you if you want. For bonus poker 6-5 Ultimate X, it's 98.124.
It's probably like 98.35.
Double bonus at 9-5 is 98.363.
Oh, I was way off.
Getting
That's
that
what I was
point
going to
too.
say.
That's exactly what you're
That
going
was
to
going
say.
to be right.
So I decided, I'm like, you know what? I'll play double bonus because I'm only here for a couple days. So hopefully I'm not going to lose as much as I normally would on like a 4 or 5 day trip. And Duffy's playing it as well at 50 senses. So I'm just going to play that. So a lot of the quads that I ended up getting where I was dealt 4 2s with a kicker, although like only one multiplier, I think. And I also ended up getting a lot of things like 4 10s on a 10X. I got 4 8s on an 8X. And
10s
because
on 10.
10s on 10s, 8 on 8. Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
because of that, and I hit a lot of the 4 of a kinds, like I shot up really quick and kind of leveled out and was, going up and down. So it was a really good, hit. I sent you this one. I had 4 aces on a 3x, but if it was a line below, it would have been a 12x, which would have been a sick hit, but did not get it.
My only gripe about that video poker experience with the pay tables is that my double bonus, which I hold so dear, when you go up from 9-6-4, which is what I normally play, which isn't a particularly good game, you can either go to 10-6-4 or 9-6-5. And the reason I keep saying 3 numbers is double bonus is one of those few games where the straight payout actually does change at some games. And because you chase straights and flushes in general, you chase those so heavily at Ultimate X, you'd actually rather that they get the bump in the payout than the full house. They didn't even... It's not like they had 10-6-4 or 9-6-5. And my double bonus, they just had the regular old 9-6-4. So I don't know what it is that made it so their bonus poker and double were great, but then they were just kind of still leaving double bonus in the lurch. So not going to the M.
You can't go to the M for sure. This is the first time I have ever been at a property and a host came up to me. We're playing, there's Josh, Marilyn, and I are playing, and someone comes up to us and says, Mr. Tierney, Mr. Duffy. And
you got top billing.
I did, actually. I did.
It's because that executive shave.
Exactly. My first thought was, what'd I do wrong? They're going to kick me out of this. Like, what did I steal? Maybe they saw us on like on our phones checking out like what's the play to make or something.
Sir, I'm from the Cosmopolitan of Las Vegas, and
you walked a marker.
Duffy's the notary.
Yeah. So he gave us a business card. He's like, make sure you email me when you leave. I was like, oh, great, awesome. Duffy's like, I'd like to get a massage tomorrow. I was like, hey, I'll set it up. I'll comp it. I was like, wonderful. He's going to comp everything, which he ended up doing it, which was amazing because
great.
I had the shave. I had a couple of meals. I had a really nice dinner. All my breakfast, everything I put back there, and they completely took care of it, which was really nice. But it makes sense, right? I was putting in a good amount of play at a property that's off strip. They're probably going to be easier.
You've never seen a guy that plays as fast as you do.
I was playing kind of fast. I did get to meet Hutch. Hutch was there.
Oh, nice.
Watched a little bit of football, lost a couple $100 on some sports betting. I hate sports betting. I don't know why I do it. Every time I look at a board, I'm like, I should bet that one because that looks off. And then I go, well, if I think it looks off, then it's probably the other way I should bet. And that's exactly what I should have done. But whatever. I'd say the highlight of the trip for me, and we'll talk about Podcasters After Dark, which was good too, but the highlight was I went to dinner at their steakhouse. It was me, Duffy, Marilyn, Eric Rosenthal, and Stacy.
Nice.
The service was excellent, and the food was delicious. It was really good, but it was really weird. I ordered my steak medium rare. Everyone else that got steak ordered it medium. It came out, mine was definitely more on the medium side, and theirs was more on the medium rare side. Now, It still was delicious, but it was just so weird. Like, it wasn't like everything was overcooked or everything was undercooked. The one that asked for it to be medium rare was not. I don't even know how that happens. We ended up getting 3 desserts that were just delicious and a couple cocktails before Podcasters After Dark. And it was wonderful. It was about $165 because I got a glass of wine and we put, I took one of the desserts on mine. I got a couple sides and everything. But like I said, the host was very gracious and took care of that at the end for me. Which gets us to Podcasters After Dark, which is definitely why I was there. I was 100% the first person invited on this podcast to be there, not the last person. And it started a little late. It was already supposed to start at 9:30, and it probably didn't even get started till like that 9:45-ish.
Can we do podcasters well before dark?
Right.
Yeah, podcasters at noon.
It gets dark at 5 p.m. We could do it earlier for sure. There's a couple of things to mention. One, this was in celebration of Mark, 360 Vegas Mark. And I met with Karen. We talked with Karen and everything. It was so much fun to see everybody. Dr. Dave was giving the introduction, but the microphone wasn't the greatest, and like people were still coming in and sitting down. And I don't think it was made clear to, especially like the points and miles people who may not know what 360 Vegas is like. So it just didn't seem like it flowed well. I mean, the words he said were great. I mean, I think he's, I've read all of the books. I think it's great. He's super awesome, but it just was kind of a weird vibe. And then it flips to the exact opposite side because there was a sexy Elvis that was there who introduced us.
That's what Mark would have wanted.
That's what Mark would want. A sexy Elvis. The shirt that he had was like there was a deep V, like all the way to his belly button V. And he's the
It was
one
a
that
he Elvis. Okay.
Yeah, it was a he Elvis.
Was it
Sexy
a
he
she?
Elvis. It was not a Shelvis. Uh,
We're not sexist here. I just, in
no,
my
no,
mind, my sexist brain went,
no.
oh, a sexy Elvis. I'm thinking, what's sexy? Oh, a female Elvis.
It was odd. People were taking pictures with them. It was a thing for sure. The panel was really good. I really enjoyed it. I thought we had some great things to say, some good banter, and the people who were there, I think, got a lot out of it. There's a lot of questions that were asked. It just was in a room that was for like the big events.
Hmm.
So it was set up for about 145-ish, 150. And there, was maybe 50 people there. But, when it's in a conference room, like, the last couple of years, like it seems packed and everything's kind of together. And because it was in that big room, they put the panel up on a stage. So it felt more
Hmm.
like you're going to like a Comic-Con and there's, like a panel up there. So it was way more of, it felt more of like a presentation versus kind of more of the conversation that it's been in the past. What I regret doing, I have one big regret, is I had 2 drinks to begin with. Because we started late, I drank one beforehand. So I only brought 1 drink up to the stand. I finished it like halfway through. And so I kept trying to get Eric's attention. I kept like trying to like wave and like point to my drink. And at the end, he was like, you had a microphone. You could have just said something. I was like, oh, yeah, that probably is what I should have done. I should have been like, hey, can someone please bring me a beverage? But yeah, so
You would not be
it
the
was really
first podcaster on a panel to use their microphone to ask
Correct.
for another
Yeah.
drink. That's for sure.
I really should have done that, but it was really fun. And, I think the best part was, I just got to hang out with really cool people like J Dubs, Karen, 360 Vegas, Mark,
Mhm.
Dr. Mike, Josh. It was a really fun time. Because the panel itself, but then like before and after you get to hang out with them. And that's what we ended up doing afterwards. Like after that, it was pretty late, like midnight. Just went back to one of the video poker bars with Josh and Eric. Just hung out for like an hour before I went to bed. So it was kind of a really chill night.
Yeah, the panels are cool because you get a lot of different opinions. I hope that Michael at some point goes back to like the original format too, where he gives that a try. Because originally, it's the early Zorkfest, Podcasters After Dark was like 3 sequential podcasts kind of doing a mini version of like their thing. So
Yeah.
like, I think one of them was like me, You Can Bet on That. I think Scott from Vital Vegas. Maybe
It was
it
those
just
3.
those 3, yeah. And
That's
they've
the one
done
I remember
similar
the
ones.
most vividly.
Yeah, and it was like truncated versions of our podcast going back to back to back. It was a very relaxed atmosphere. He wasn't going for that this year, which I recognized, all things considered. But that can be fun too, because then people can like pick and choose. Like, oh, I don't want to go to Handy at the Shandy. I'm going to go to,
Right.
You Can Bet on That. I don't know why they would do that.
I was going to say that same sort of sentiment about James talking about the room not necessarily fitting the crowd. I think the problem with Podcasters After Dark is that you have no idea how many people are going to show up for it, right? Like anyone with a Zorkfest ticket or anyone with the add-on Podcasters Only ticket that he put out. And I think he did do that again this year. Any one of those people can be in the room. And so you do have to plan for there to be a lot of people, even if at 9:30 on a Saturday, some people have like better things to do in Vegas.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if there's better things to do in Vegas. Like I felt like,
well,
obviously
there's no better things to do in Vegas, but
no better things to do than listen to me talk. They had sessions starting like 8 a.m. So I think a lot of people are just like, I'm done with this by
I
this
had better things to do in Vegas at 9:30, and that's go to bed.
Yeah, that's true, for sure. Woke up on Sunday. That was the day I was going home. I changed my flight. I was originally going to take the red eye, but I'm like, no, like it's a busy time of the semester. I need to just get home. So I knew I needed to leave by noon. And there was Coffee Dice and the Baccarat game that I signed up for. So I knew it was just going to be kind of a light gaming day. Coffee Dice went as it went last year, Adam. It dragged. But I will say there's one good shooter. So Trey had a really good roll, so won a lot of the money back. When Trey got done, I looked and I was down exactly $200 for my $1,000 buy-in. And I had been down like 6 or 7. So like I made it back up and I was like, oh, this is a good spot to stop. It's a half hour before the baccarat table. I want to go get some food. So I'm like, I'm going to stop. So I ended up only losing $200 at the table, which was great because I then kind of went and got, I think, a yogurt. And then I came back and watched the next 3 shooters be awful and everyone got wrecked. And I was like, oh, sometimes it's good to walk away, And then the only other thing I did was I played in the $25 squeeze game, which was $1,000 minimum buy-in, but it was a $25 minimum table. So I was like, all right, whatever. I brought my $800 in chips over from the craps table, and then just like bought
I'm
it for
surprised they allowed
$250.
that. Like now it has to be sequential singles to buy
Correct.
in.
Only buy in with 20s.
It's like a
I mean, I lost
kidnapper's
100.
demands. We need unmarked,
Right.
non-sequential
Yeah.
in a briefcase.
I lost $150 in 30 minutes playing $25
That's a record.
squeeze, and I did not up my bet from $25. It was just such bad luck. And what ended up happening was so it wasn't like everyone was playing banker, or when I'm like, I'm only going to play banker. I'm just going to stick on banker.
You should have read the board.
Yeah, you
I
gotta
should
go
have
with
read
the
the board.
flow.
Well, Traeger was like reading the board and trying to say like, oh, I like to do this. I think it's going to be like this or this. And for like the first like 5 hands, everything Traeger was doing was the opposite. Like he started like 2 on banker, then he went 2 on player, and it just like kept going back and forth. And at one point I said, I think I'm just going to bet opposite of Traeger might be the good thing to go. But it was really fun. I got to sit next to Rex, like I talked about before. It was a good time. The one thing I did want to mention is I got some gifts.
Oh,
it was a Sunday
for all of
gift
us?
giving. I will send it to you if you would like, because it's a handheld massager.
Oh, I've heard about those.
But I didn't get one because you could get a maximum of 2. So I got 2 of them. So in my carry-on were 2 boxes of little handheld, like
double
the
fisting.
massagers that would go. I was double fisting handheld massagers for sure. I guess I'll kind of end with a couple of just final thoughts of M Resorts in M Resort in general, and also say like how amazing it was to have people coming up and saying, hey, we really love the podcast. Like people I've never met before that are like, hey, Table Games James, like you and Adam and Boring Jack, like it's so much fun. I was like, great. So specifically Rex, who's in Texas, and Marco from Oklahoma City. Both of them were just so nice, and I just couldn't like. I'm new to the space, right? So just having people come up, and I'm like, oh man, like I'm people like me.
I
People
feel
think
the
I'm
exact
cool.
same way. I mean, Adam is used to having a show. You've had a show for like over 10 years now.
I'm used to compliments.
I've had a show for fewer than 10 months now. Yeah, it's absolutely bizarre that we get people that take the time to listen to the show, and then then also to take the time to say they enjoy it, because I don't know, it's wild. I mean, like I like listening to our show, but like
right, yeah. And I've told you this, right? I was talking to people like, oh man, I really learned a lot from Jack. We talked about those pay tables or everything. And every time Jack's like, I don't know if we should talk about this. This seems boring. I'm like, no, that's what people like. Like, we want to learn about these little quirks with these video poker pay tables. And, there's 3 hands being dealt behind Dream Card. Like, that's cool stuff.
Still don't believe it, but it's true.
Yeah. I think for me, overall, M Resort, I think it'd be great for like a one-night stay if I was driving in from Southern California with Kim and we just wanted to like start or end the trip with just one night.
Like, I can't make it. I can't go 20 more minutes.
I can't. But for a full Vegas trip, like I'm like, I want to go. I want to get to the
way
strip.
You said
I didn't
one
like
night stay there makes me feel like we need to like fuck, marry, kill with Vegas properties or something. It started to sound like one night stand, or anyways.
One night stand. Yeah. It's kind of too far from everything for me. I've got similar options. Like I could go to Borgata, right? Or MGM National Harbor. That's really close, which is a secluded, really nice area with nice rooms that I can get comps at. So I think I would get treated a lot better at a place like M Resort, because if I'm playing my level that I'm playing at Cosmo or Venetian, where they're like, hey, here's $100, like they're going to probably just take care of F&B. But I'm not necessarily going to Vegas for that. I'm going to Vegas to be on the strip. And so I don't see myself staying there unless it's kind of the tail end or the beginning of a longer stay. So yeah, that was my Zorkfest. I did all of my gambling log. I ended up losing $1,050, and I gambled a decent amount, which I thought was really good. One thing I did want to mention, I think this is because I just started with the podcast. I wanted to make sure that I was always very open and honest with how much I'm gambling and like how much I'm losing or winning. Like I don't want to sit here and be like, oh yeah, it was a rough trip, but not say what the number is. But what also I've done now is I've been very specific on like, this is my max budget for a trip. And that's how I've been budgeting things out, which is how you should be doing it. But I think in the past, I've just been kind of wishy-washy of like, oh, I'm going to bring a couple grand, but then if I go to the ATM a couple more times, it's fine. So what that meant was prior to, I think, starting the podcast, I would think that my budget was $2,000, but really it was like 4. I've been trying to do a lot better job of when I'm planning out finances overall is like, hey, I'm going to Zorkfest and that is a $3,000 budget trip. Or I'm going to F1 and that's a $6,000 budget trip or whatever. And because I've done that, like, and that's my maximum, a lot of these trips I've been going on lately, and it's because I'm saying there's a higher budget, I'm not hitting the budget. So when I leave, I'm like, I just made $2,000 because I budgeted $3,000 and I only lost 1.
And you're still walking markers.
Still walking markers. Yeah, that's true. So anyways, Zorkfest was awesome. You know, I hope they do it again next year. I'm excited to find out where it's going to be. I'm sure if it's at a time that works, I will show up. I like the people that are there. You know, Traeger puts in so much work.
Yeah, he puts in a ton of work.
It's such a ton of work. And I've organized things like our improv theater has a festival that runs for 3 days, and that's just one location, but the logistics is just insane, and he's working all years for it. So I was super happy that Duffy got to moderate and invite me to be on the panel. And all the people that I met were super nice, super fun. And it's just a cool little community we got there.
Yeah, definitely is. If Duffy moderates again, there's no way Jack's getting invited after his chocolate martini or special martini fiasco.
Not. I think that's why he got uninvited, to be honest.
Well, I'm glad you had a good time. Zorkfest is always a good time. Recording with you two was a good time today. I hope everyone who's listening had a good time. For Boring Jack and Table James Games, yes, I'm Adam the Fraud. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you in the new year.
Yeah, see you next year.
This could be our year, baby.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, I'm leaving the podcast.
Please.